Joining me now is Scott Reid, our CTV News political commentator. Scott, thanks for joining us this morning.
Morning.
This is a significant deal for Canadians, but also for the confidence and supply agreement between the Liberals and NDP. Are all things good in Liberal NDP land now?
It seems that they're better anyway. There was a lot of tough talk about ending the agreement, which, to remind people, is really what keeps this minority parliament alive. It allows the Trudeau government to govern as though it had a majority, even though it is a minority parliament. It can live free from worry that it will be defeated in the House of Commons and forced into an election. So that politically, on pure political basis, that's the bottom line for this news. It means that we will not have an election in 2024. It means that the Liberals get one more year to try to figure out how to get themselves out of the cul-de-sac that they are in terms of popular opinion.
Is this deal enough to satisfy the NDP? We haven't heard a lot of details. I mean, there must be more to it.
Yeah, it looks to me like the NDP got very little out of this deal, all things considered. I don't think it took a lot to get their concurrence. They're talking tough. You saw Singh all over news media yesterday. We just saw a clip of him there saying that he had to push the Liberals. They were very reluctant. I think a lot of that is political theater. The reality is that the NDP don't want an election much more than the Liberals do. They both know that would probably be their Waterloo in terms of election seats and electoral success. So this deal allows them to sustain the argument that they are getting things done, that they are making achievements. And look, let's not be, too grudging. The reality is that having medications for diabetes, contraception covered, that's going to matter a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but in my life, I know a lot of people with diabetes, and the cost can be crushing.
Absolutely. With this, we just had Nick Nanos on earlier talking some polling numbers, and Singh is not far behind Trudeau. Would the NDP be thinking about trying to go a little earlier with an election if those numbers hold?
Well, we'll have to see. It's a real gamble for them because although they're close to the Liberals, they're both close in being in a dismal place. So, they're both in the low 20s. And in order to be competitive, you need to be in the mid 30s in order to actually win seats and have a hope even of a minority victory. I think for the Liberals, those numbers are really consequential. I think they're less consequential for the NDP in this sense. When the Liberals get very, very narrow in terms of separation from the NDP, it creates a bad voter logic for the Liberal Party because the ability of Liberals to say you cannot afford to waste your vote on the NDP, you must hold your nose and vote Liberal in order to stop the big bad Conservatives, in order to put an end to Pierre Poilievre. That argument makes less sense when people say, well, you're effectively tied in the polls. So maybe as an NDP voter, I can just go ahead and vote NDP. It becomes very perilous for the governing Liberals. They really could see the bottom fall out for them. And they must use this year to get back on top. And for the NDP, although this deal allows them to get another year and it allows them to say that they put some W's on the board from a policy perspective, it does tie them to a very unpopular government. So when eventually they come to the election, they're going to have to figure out how they argue that they are an opponent of the government as opposed to basically a side partner.
Okay, and what about the Conservatives? What do they do with this?
Well, I think the Conservatives like this. They think that this allows them to say, look, it's an NDP Liberal alliance. This takes you far, far, far into the left. This takes you away from mainstream middle-class concerns. I think they will argue that this is a programmatic approach. Lots of money will get spent. Lots of frameworks and plans will be made, but will much get done. So this fits right into their let's focus on bread and butter, kitchen table economics, cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries. So it's good news for the Conservatives in that sense. I personally really wondered whether the Liberals would take the risk and say, let's let this agreement dissolve so they can move themselves back to the middle and try to be more competitive with the Conservatives. But obviously, they decided that the comfort of knowing you could live another year in politics was worth it. And it's tough to argue with that when you're looking at the news.
Yeah, I mean, a year is a lifetime for politics right now. And just quickly, reaction from the provinces. What are they going to say to this before we go?
Well, they'll have a million questions. So, some province will say, just give us the money for core health care. That's going to be the number one attack against this. This might be a good idea. These priorities might be valuable. But in a world where frontline services are, really under pressure, we need to pay more nurses. We need to get more doctors. We need to relieve the pressure on our emergency wards. A lot of premiers will be saying, just give us money for basic health care. And let's leave this programmatic stuff until a time when we're more flush.
All right, Scott Reid, CTV News political commentator. Thank you as always.
Thanks, Roger. See ya.